Good morning and forgive me, I'm still chewing. I meant to tell you about this the other day and I forgot. I was gifted with this Danish Kringle. Have you had that before? See, I happen to be a bear claw-aholic, so Danish Kringle is like, oh, so good. Trader Joe's carries it, and apparently they only carry it like during this time of year, so it's like a big deal to get one. And I got one as a belated birthday gift. Sorry about the ponytail this morning, but I got ready early for tennis, and it's much easier to play if I can, like wear my hair back and put a, but as you see, my hair isn't any better behaved than I am. Yeah. So it's Tuesday, and usually that would be Taco Tuesday, right? But not today, folks. Today it is National Sardines Day. So if you're worried about what to cook for dinner, now you know, just open up a can of sardines. It's almost Thanksgiving, so it might be cleanup time. So I put that there. In a lot of ways, we're getting close to the end of the year. It might be time to do some cleanup and start the year maybe on a different note than we're ending this year. I don't know, just putting it out there. Cleanup time, whatever that means to you. It might be physical, might be emotional, might be mental. Cleanup time. Yeah. So Tuesday, November 24th, very close to Thanksgiving. I got my turkey yesterday. I got just a little one, like a 10-pound turkey. I think that's the smallest turkey I've ever bought, ever, in the history of ever. We'll see. I mean, you can still make a lot of stuffing, right? I think I told you I have regular stuffing, gluten-free stuffing, cornbread stuffing. I like stuffing, so we'll have a lot of stuff, Yeah. Today in 1950, Guys and Dolls opened on Broadway. Big, huge, huge hit. And whenever I think about that, I am moved to think about my very, very best friend in the whole wide world, who is no longer with me or us, by the name of Fred Lynette's. Now, that sounds like a familiar last name to some of you because that would be my last name. Yeah, at one point, I actually married my best friend's son. Yeah, for like 20 years, I was married to my best friend's son. My best friend was Fred Lynette's. It's not often that a young woman, and I was fairly young then when I first met him, has a best friend who's like 30 some years older than she is. But Fred and I were inseparable. He was the best. I find myself occasionally, and more often in the past few years, that when something wonderful happens, I run to get the phone to tell Fred. Or if there's like an old movie on or a musical, because we did a lot of musical comedy together. If there's a show on that I think he would like, I go to the phone to call him. And then I remember he's dead. Do you have that experience where somebody in your life was so huge and important to you that you kind of reach out to them, forgetting that they're not around anymore? Anyway, why do I think of Fred and Guys and Dolls at the same time? Well, Fred was an old showman. It's not what he did for a living. It's what he did for an avocation. We did community theater together. But before we were together as BFF, best friends forever, he was in Guys and Dolls. And that was like a lot of people knew him for that. But the funny thing about Fred was he couldn't remember his lines, not for the life of him. So he always carried a clipboard. And whatever director he was working at, their job was to figure out how his character could possibly need a clipboard, because he had to keep his lines on his clipboard or he couldn't do the shows. We did some great shows together. I think I mentioned 70 Girls 70. Cantor and Ebb. It was on Broadway for about this long because old people did the show. So there wasn't the right kind of energy, I guess. But I did it with Fred. I played Ida. He played Harry, which was particularly moving for me because my grandparents were Ida and Harry. Go figure. Anyway, we did, one of the shows we did was Anything Goes. And there's a line in Anything Goes that's, I'm so glad we decided to take this boat. And it's actually a funny line in the show. For some reason, Fred and I thought that was a hilarious line. So we made a pact that if one of us died, we would wait for someone to say, I'm so glad we decided to take this boat. And that was the way we would communicate from the other side. You know, Fred went and died on me. And the last thing I did as he was being wheeled away from me was whisper in his ear, don't forget, I'm so glad we decided to take this boat. And he just looked over at me and kind of gave me a half a smile. But I haven't heard him say it yet. I'm still waiting to find Fred. So if you hear anyone say that, call me right away because it means Fred's around. Yeah, okay. Enough of that. Good morning, kids. Yeah, who doesn't love Guys and Dolls? Yeah, it was a great show. And we all have somebody, right, that we loved and died and we remember. That'd be my Fred, my BFF. Here's to you, Freddles. Okay. It's also Scott Joplin's birthday. Who's Scott Joplin? Scott Joplin was the ragtime king. He's the one who wrote The Entertainer. Now, he's like from the 1800s, but his music has totally lived on. Isn't that what we all want? To leave behind a legacy that lives on? And Scott did a great job. He wrote The Entertainer. Da 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 da. You know the song, okay? I love that song. I love that song. Happy birthday, Scott. Here's to you. Dale Carnegie, like 20 years later, was born. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, there's another guy who did something, wrote a book, came up with this idea that was like so huge that almost 100 years later, people are still talking about it, doing it, remembering him for it. How to Make Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie. Happy birthday. Okay, so here's a guy, didn't quite get into the same league, but happy birthday to Pete Best. Does the name sound familiar? It might or it might not, but Pete Best was the drummer with the Beatles before Ringo came along. Yeah, how's that for a claim to fame? I left the Beatles just in time for them to become the most famous group of all time. Whew. Yeah, that would be kind of miserable. Good morning, Henry. Thanks for being here. Anyway, Pete Best, happy birthday. It brings up that line about, and it was always attributed to George Harrison, saying that Ringo was not the world's greatest drummer. He wasn't even the greatest drummer in the Beatles, which is a fabulous line. And it turns out George Harrison didn't say it. Apparently, somebody said it on some radio show or something. I don't know. But it's still a great line. It's still a funny line. Ringo Starr's 80. How's that for making you feel old, huh? Wow. Okay, in 1971, the weirdest thing ever happened. This guy who, for some reason, they named Dan Cooper or DB Cooper, but nobody knows who he is, what his name is. He hijacked an airplane, extorted $200,000, jumped out of said airplane over Washington State, and disappeared, never to be found or heard from again. they had like the FBI and 45 different groups looking for this guy for the longest time. And then I guess like 20 years later, some of the bills from the that he had extorted showed up at some riverbed. Some little kid found him, and they still couldn't find him. The theory is he never made it through the crash, but who knows? I mean, I remember it being like such a bizarre story. And here it is. How many years later? That was in 71. 30 years later, it's still a bizarre story. Oh, and today's the anniversary of the death of Freddie Mercury and Queen. Yeah, he was quite a guy, wasn't he? I don't even have to spend a lot of time talking about him. I'm sure you've all seen the movies at least a half a dozen times. God knows I did. Do you know he was born in Zanzibar, which I guess is now Tanzania or something? I don't know. Kind of unusual little tidbit for you for today. Born in Zanzibar. I, however, was born in Chicago, Illinois, and here I am in beautiful desert of California. It's cleanup time for me. But I think before I have cleanup time, I am going to have a little bit more of this Danish Kringle. Should I show you what it looks like? It comes in this bag, and it comes with a piece of plastic over it to keep it fresh. Can you see it? Oh, somebody's been eating it. It's like half gone already. It's so good. I'm sure it's very low in calories. Oh, it's only 230 calories. I assume that means for the entire bag, right? Go have yourself something wonderful for breakfast. Don't forget, it's Taco Tuesday. So maybe today we have sardine tacos since it's National Sardine Day. Whatever you decide to have a wonderful meal. Don't eat too much because remember, in 2 days it's Thanksgiving. And whether you're celebrating safely at home with no more than 4 to 6 people who already hang out together, so you're safe and you're social distanced, maybe even you're eating outside, I don't know. Just be careful and be safe. This is a tough time, but there's still so much to be grateful for. Thanksgiving like we never knew it. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.